Okay. Let's go ahead and get started. Brian, would you lead us in our invocation tonight?
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege to be here tonight. We thank you for the beautiful day that we've had. Pray that you would direct and guide these council members and mayor as they make decisions for us on behalf today, Lord. Just bless those who are here, bless those who cannot be here, and pray. Amen.
Amen. Samantha, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll go ahead and convene our meeting. Start with a roll call. Misty Cottle.
Here.
Jeff Upton.
Here.
Jan Throgmorton.
Yes.
Marty Lindaberry.
Here.
John Collins.
Here.
Dina McKnight.
Here.
Don Rollins. Jimmy Condiff.
Here.
Our city attorney and city clerk are both present.
Here's Don. Here's Mr. Don.
There he is.
Here. Hey, don't worry about that text. I was ignoring it anyway.
All right. First item on the agenda is the adoption of the agenda. I do need to ask to amend it to add that change order that was emailed out to everyone. I'd like to add that to new business item 4. Do we have any concerns or motions?
I motion to accept that change and to accept the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Next is the approval of our meeting minutes from March 14th. Do we have any changes that need to be made to those? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept them as they're written.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Next is our public forum. Looks like we got a lot of public here tonight. I apologize to everybody for coming kind of casual tonight. I just got out of surgery last week, so still dealing with that, and just don't really care what I look like yet. That being said, we're going to open up our public forum. 2 minutes for anybody that would like to address the council. We do have an introduction, so sir, if you want to step forward and tell us who you are and what you're doing here tonight in West Fort.
Yes, sir. Mayor, members of the council, thank you for giving me just a minute. My name is Taylor Samples. I'm the Senior Deputy City Attorney for the City of Springdale. Our District Court Judge, Jeff Harper, has announced that he's going to retire there in Springdale District Court. He does what Judge Jones does here there in Springdale, and I'm going to go for his spot. They'll be voting on that in March of 24. And it's kind of a weird deal the way it's set up. It's countywide voting. So members of the outlying community will be eligible to vote on it. And again, my name is Taylor Samples, and I just wanted to introduce myself. I graduated from Huntsville High School, and we used to come over here and for ball games and whatnot, and I was always impressed with the community here. So thank you for giving me just a minute.
Thank you, Taylor. All right, anyone else like to address the council tonight? No? All right, we'll close the public forum and move into our meeting. First up is business reports, Planning Commission. Walter?
Good evening. We didn't have a whole lot. A couple things of consequence, though. At our regular meeting on the 16th, we approved a final plat. Since there aren't any actual streets that the city has to take on, we're just waiting on a few signatures from the applicant, and then it'll be approved and they can start building their houses. Beyond that, we also had, we're down a member, and so we had a person apply, Miss Bonnie Stitt, if she's here, I didn't see her, behind me, over there. And we voted to recommend placing her on the commission. And then on April 6th, we had our public hearing for our master street plan and future land use map. And we decided to go ahead. It's not going to be on your agenda now. It'll be on next month for the ordinance to come around. But we voted to recommend adoption of the proposed master street plan and future land use map. And then other than that, our next meeting is April 20th here in this building at 6:30. So
What-
far, all we have is a lot split.
Where was that plat located at?
Goodness, I'm not blanking on where it was. It's right off of, yes. It's 4 lots. It's right at the bare minimum of what we require for a subdivision. And so we're not gonna require them to build actual streets for it though, but it still has to be platted as such.
Okay.
Any other questions for Walter? Thank you, sir.
I also see that there are versions of what's online, the future land use map and master street plan is, the website's long, it's westforkplanning.transportationplanroom.com. It's kind of long, it is on the website, but there's also some printouts of what is on the website. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Court report, Tracy?
Okay. Not that I have a whole lot to say, but the disbursements were down 8,000 from last month and 9,000 from same month last year. We were down about 44 tickets from last month and then 136 from the same time last year. We're going to be down again because we don't have court for a couple weeks. We're out for training and something else. Oh yeah, no judge on the last day of the month. So we won't be settling a lot of things. Anyway, and I don't know what May's gonna be. Courts will be closed on April 20th and April 21st because we'll be in Little Rock for training. So that's all I got, I think.
Any questions for Tracy? Thanks, Tracy. Library report, Blair.
Good evening. Checkouts of books at the library are up 39% from February. In-person visits were up 59%. That's a lot, I'm not sure why. We have got the plans from the engineer for the parking lot, and construction on that should start this summer. We also have in the library a new community exhibit on display. It's called Ozark Basket Cases, and it's a showcase of local basket makers in the area, and it was curated by Jeffy O'Kane. So that will be up in the lobby till June. Any questions?
No questions for Blair? No?
Thank y'all.
It's a quiet group tonight. So Blair, while we're on the library, real quick, and Jane Bryant is in the room, you gave me a book about 3 or 4 years ago called Bibliotech. Probably gave it to me, never dreamed I would read it. But I've actually read it a couple times, and I just gave it away the other day. Didn't give it away, borrowed or loaned it out. Anyway, it made me think of you when I grabbed that. I was having a discussion about libraries and some people doing some work with libraries in another town, but loaned it out. They got a lot out of it too. So thank you for that. Do you want that book back?
Just pass it along.
Okay, I'll keep doing so. Interim Chief Goggins, come give us a police report.
Sorry, I got a little eager there. Our calls for service this month is 306. It's actually down year over year, but it's trending up from where we have been. So it has been a busy month, even being shorthanded. Officer Beck graduated this last week from the academy, so he'll start his training this week with Sergeant Riley. So we'll get him trained up and hopefully get him out on his own soon. No updates on Officer Cordero, except that we have asked the Washington County Sheriff's Office to do the internal investigation for us. So they have a very well qualified person to take that on, use of force expert, a lot of experience. We thought that was a good idea to do that. So they have already, I'm not sure where they're at with it, but we've already provided interviews and all the information they have, and we have yet to hear from the state or them as far as any conclusions with that, so we're still waiting. So that's all I got for you.
Any questions for Officer Goggins? So, Officer Goggins, what we got you up here, I know a lot of people have it on their mind about when are we going to hire a new chief? So, I think our last meeting, I let everyone know that the committee that I put together to help with that was meeting. We have narrowed the field from 30 down to 7. We have reached out to those 7 to make sure that all 7 are still interested in the position, and they are. So where we're at now is trying to schedule interviews, trying to get something put together for that. So we're getting closer, and we've got 7 really strong candidates. So
Are they all, are any of them local, or are they all?
so out of the 7, 4 are local. A 5th one is in the area, and 2 are out of state. So, and they, that narrowed down from as far away as, I think we had 2 from Alaska and 1 from New York, and I mean, it was crazy. They were, we had a lot of interest in that position. So, but yeah, so we're to that point. We should be scheduling interviews soon and moving forward with that.
Have they been a chief somewhere before, or?
I do not believe we have any of the applicants. So of the 7 that we chose, no. There was an applicant who had chief experience, a lot of different cities of chief's experience. And so, yeah, so we'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
But I do, and I've brought this up to Christie, but I think I have failed to bring it up to the city council, and I've meant to do that. I do want to make sure that at some point we make sure and give Officer Goggins a stipend for his time filling in this position, and I meant to bring that up to the council months ago and have not. I think I told Justin that I would do that. It wasn't that I've changed my mind, Justin, I just forgot. So anyway, I do want us to be thinking about that.
Well, he told me he's doing less than he was before.
Whoever told you that lie.
But he has done a fantastic job of filling in, and I do want to make sure that we compensate him for that extra work. So.
You bet.
I didn't know what you were going to bring up, so I was kind of holding my breath.
Never know, do you?
Thank you, sir. Isaac.
My committee and I were going to get together and have some meetings, so y'all do have minutes in there. The one thing I did have a report is we changed our SCADA system out. Went with a new company called Mission Controls. It's kind of nationwide and it is working perfectly. I haven't had one alarm, knock on wood, where I was going out 4 or 5 times a week because the tank was overflowing. Or I'm not going to take up a whole lot of time. I got Nick back here. I think's got some news he wants to come share with you guys. So, y'all got any questions for me?
Any questions for Isaac? He's got every road in the city tore up.
Yep.
Working on that I-9. Finding those
Yep.
leaks.
I think we've dug up every square inch of Phillips, either looking for water leaks or fixing sewer taps. So,
Any news on the gas company's project?
yeah, they're actually moving along pretty good. They're this side of Kelly Street. They're actually going up Kelly Street right now. So, but they've got crews going ahead of them, hydrovacing out utilities, and they're coming behind them boring it. So he says they're going to run out of money in the next month or so, and they'll have to pull out and be back. So
It's probably because of that sweetheart contract I got ex-mayor Baker for leasing space in his yard.
It's hard to do.
Somehow Black Hills runs out of money down here, but then they'll turn around and spend $1.5 million in Fayetteville to do a big project.
So is that them that's coming, I think it's south on 71? Is that part of the same group, or do you know?
No, I think that's a cable.
Yeah, I think it's communications.
Yeah,
or something.
communications of some sort. So.
Yeah, they've been everywhere.
I'll let Nick jump up here.
Is there any news on the subdivision?
Homestead.
Yeah, Homestead Connecting.
That's that guy.
Okay. well,
You can fire away when he
We'll
gets
wait
up
for
here.
him.
If y'all don't have any other questions for me, I'll let Nick get up there and
Good evening.
Hey, Nick.
It's been a couple months, or a few. It's good to be back. Quick update on sewer project. We are done now. We've accepted everything. March 14th, everything was completed. Isaac accepted everything. City of Fayetteville accepted. So tonight, the change order the mayor referenced is to do final pay app to the contractor, close out the project on the construction side. There is a slight increase at the end. It was for some stored materials that city took possession of last year, was it? Back in 22. So it's just reconciling that. There was some other things they were trying to get the city to pay for, and I just said no. There's about $10,000 worth of stuff, and I told them they could find a use for it elsewhere. So we'll process that. Gotten everything from the contractor. They did their affidavit of lien release yesterday. So once we get this signed off, we'll be closed out, other than I owe y'all as-built drawings, or Isaac more importantly, so we'll get working on that. So we're finally there. Almost 8 years after I started working here. As far as I was going to give a quick update on ARPA, been working with Christy. She's been very helpful. Thank you. The state had asked for a laundry list of items to get your money for the big project and the in-house project. So I think I have everything in hand, and I'm going to submit that to the state by Friday, and that should hopefully get things going on money that they promised. Homestead. No movement since the last time. We submitted our funding application. It was supposed to go to the commission in March, and they pushed all of the projects they were going to look at to May, because there was a hold put on that infrastructure money at the beginning of the year by the governor. So hopefully they'll look at it in May. I haven't heard any updates since then, but May 17th is the meeting. The only other item in that is we had to do a water plan compliance application, which the state did approve, and we're gonna, I don't know if you saw the email, we have to do a public hearing sometime in May for that, basically for the project, and it looks like I have to notify all water and sewer systems within 5 miles of the project that this is happening, which everyone is aware, so there shouldn't be any issues there, but we're keeping our fingers crossed for the May meeting, that we'll get the rest of the funding we need there, because we got half of it for ARPA, 1.1 million there, so we need another 1.1 to.
And so Nick, just to be clear, that money is still available, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
As far as we know, I know that there was the hold put on that money at the beginning of the year for the governor to revisit anything that hadn't been committed. It didn't touch ARPA, but it touched this IIJA money that was out there. So.
And so of the funds that we have been applying for, what of those have been taken off the table versus what are still on the table?
Trying to think. I mean, I think everything. I think Homestead's the only thing out there right now. I mean, y'all got the ARPA money for the big sewer project and your in-house sewer projects that used the city ARPA money for. The meter replacement didn't get funded.
Right.
And then Homestead was the other one that we received.
And so one piece of that was going to go directly to those bonds, to pay down our bonds, correct?
Yes, from the big project, around 800,000 should come back. It should go to pay down the principal, and then I know the state's talking about refinancing those bonds at a lower rate.
Yeah. And so what you're saying is that you're going to be finding out when that's going to fund?
Yes, they asked for this paperwork that has to be submitted by the 15th, which is a Saturday, so I assume I should get it to them by Friday. I'll have it to them before Friday, but that was just kind of the documentation, because when we did our ARPA applications, we'd asked if they needed everything, and they said, no, we'll ask for it later. When that was later, they needed canceled checks and all the invoices and contracts. I mean, we had to dig up a whole lot of stuff. It was like 13, 14 items. It'll be a big document that we send to them. So it is moving forward, not as fast as we expected, but it's good that we're at this point now.
Sure. Anything else for Nick?
Thanks for all your work.
Thank y'all. It's
For
been,
all that hard work.
we're almost there. Slow drawings, but yeah, then I can be off the hook. But yeah, it's been quite the journey, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's,
Y'all did a great job of all the way through.
well, it was a team effort. Y'all played a big part. Isaac and his folks, and especially getting the pond closed out, the whole plant. I mean, it looks beautiful out there.
Does.
It really does. So.
So last month at our meeting, I let the council know that Nick and his company submitted that plan for an award, or that project for an award, and McClellan was recognized for the project of basically tying in that sewer from here to Fayetteville, getting that out of the White River at West Fork, and so it was a big deal. Last month we didn't have a nice big group like this, so there wasn't as many people to hear about that. But yeah, it was Nick invited a couple of us down. It was down at Little Rock. They fed us and had a nice award ceremony. But that was cool to see West Fork up there with. It was all engineering projects in Arkansas, and it was nice to be a part of that.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all coming.
Yeah.
It was a good time. I'm sure it was at the mansion, like we originally thought, but it was okay.
It was
Country
okay.
Club was a
Yeah.
nice venue.
It was. So yeah,
Thanks, y'all.
thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Steve.
Next, our Parks report. Parks Director Harrison.
My reports have seemed to be pretty repetitive the last couple of months, but the good news is a lot of those projects that I've been talking about over the last few months are finally getting completed. Our trails, it was completed last month, but we've added some signage. We've got some advertising out there to try to let people know it's open, and we've seen some being used quite a bit in the last month or so. So I'm really happy with it. There's some things we're gonna add and do still, just like the disc golf course. It's always a work in progress, but it is open. Get out there and walk it. It's really nice. So.
So Chad, what trail are you talking about? We've got a lot of new folks in here tonight.
We have added a soft surface trail through the middle of our disc golf course. So it is open. It's if you park at the gravel parking lot by the ball fields and walk straight north over the top bridge, the trailhead's right there, and it's an in and out trail. You walk in, there's a destination at the end with a pavilion and picnic area, and then back out. Total in and out is right at 3/4 of a mile. So you can also see some of our disc golf course and some other things as you're back in there. But be cautious and watch for flying disc as well, because it is an active golf course, and some days it's real active. We did plant some trees back there, and Paula, there she is over there, and some of the master gardeners. And we went in, they were asking if that course gets a lot of use. And I said, yeah, it gets pretty busy. And we went in and planted a few trees, and keep your fingers crossed that they grow, we're hoping. On our way, when we come back out, there was probably 15 cars parked there with golfers that had just came in or getting ready to go. So, but yeah, both of those are getting some use. It's a great way to get out, see the park, and enjoy the nature as well. Finally, the fencing at the tennis courts is going up. They've been working on it for a couple of days. I won't promise, but we should have those things back open by the end of the week. It's been a slow process. They say it was supply getting the fencing, and they haven't really got after it to get it up either, but it should be up hopefully. He's telling me maybe tomorrow even. So we'll get the nets and things back up, but should be back open by the end of the week. And then on Riverside restrooms, those will be set in place a week from today. We've been working on the pad. Isaac's and his crew's been helping us get that pad ready. We got a plumber coming in to do some work tomorrow, hopefully. We'll have the pad prepped and ready by next Tuesday. The building will be set. They will hook up the water and utilities and things. We still may take a little bit to get power there. We're working on that. Isaac's helped me as well with that, on getting a pole set and getting power to it. We'll have to do some some asphalt and concrete work around it once it gets here, but hopefully we'll have those open and raring to go within a couple of weeks at the most. So excited about that. Excited about that. I think they're going to be a great addition, and people are going to be able to enjoy them. And anyone that wants to volunteer to come help me clean them anytime, just let me know. Not looking forward to that, but other than that, I'm excited about them. Other than that, ball season's full swing. Our teams they've been practicing, high school's been playing, but our season kicks off next week as far as games. We'll get started next week. So lots of activity down there. If you've been down there walking or been down there for practices, lots of teams, lots of activity going on down there. So I think that's all I got.
Any question for Chad? Yes,
Couple
Misty.
things. What about the stage and the bathrooms?
We're still that is still in the development stage as always. We're trying to get some of these other things wrapped up, and then we turn our focus, get our season going, get these other things wrapped up, and then I'm going to turn my focus to those. But they are still definitely something that we intend to get done this year, and hopefully soon.
And what about any kind of benches down there?
I don't have any definite plans for that. I got some thoughts and ideas, and of course we've got some benches by the tennis courts. We got the
What
pavilion.
About, to me, a perfect one would be like where the sign is.
Which side?
The disc golf, you
Oh.
know, like the welcome.
Yeah,
Like I see a lot of people sitting there and stuff.
Yeah, they use that practice basket a lot, and so
Yeah.
right there might be a good
I know,
spot
that's the
for
only
one.
thing I've thought of too.
Yeah, it's not a bad area because we have the picnic. It's about halfway. I know
Yeah.
it's not real, it's not a bench, but it is a place to sit down
Yeah.
and rest and enjoy if you need to. But we still want to do that. Just don't have an exact plan for that yet. And we're going to add some on the soft service trail as well. We've got a couple of spots picked out to add. We have a couple of natural rock benches in the disc golf course itself, at a couple of tees, but we do plan on along the trail at least. We've got one spot for sure, and looking at another one possibly to add a couple of benches on it as well.
So no stage probably for the 4th of July.
I won't say no, but it's getting tighter.
We could do it groundbreaking maybe.
It's getting tighter. It's getting tighter. That was my hopes, but
Yeah,
I don't know if it's going to happen by then.
that was it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Anything else?
No?
All
Thanks,
right.
Chad.
Thank y'all.
Chief Myers.
I got a sneaky feeling if anybody's volunteered to help him clean bathrooms, it'll probably be me. I'll have more water pressure than he'll have. So. Really not much. 68 calls, down a little bit, which probably the only department that our calls are down is good. Our car fire problem seems to be cropping back up again. Does about this time every year. We've already had several, probably more already this month than we've had the last 3 or 4 months put together. So that and grass fires. I'm gonna be going to Fire Department International at the end of the month, kind of looking at new equipment and truck stuff. So give us an idea where we're at and what we need to be looking at. So other than that, that's all I got.
Any questions for Chief Myers?
I
Yes,
knew
Misty.
Misty would.
I know. What about a boots and badges blood drive? Y'all gonna-
That's gonna be in June.
June.
Yep. Need y'all to turn out to help the police department. I don't wanna beat them 3 years in a row. I'd rather them make an effort this year, you know.
June.
It'll be June. And I'm sorry, I don't have the specific date. I'll have to look it up. I'll tell you. Well, you know.
You gotta go out and invite people to come.
And they get you right at the door, right when you go in. They're standing there watching.
We cook for people. I don't know what you guys.
Yeah, that's right. They offer. They're like, are you hungry?
Donate blood, get a ticket.
Oh yeah, I was looking at the
Anything else for Chief Myers? No? Thank you, sir. Christie, give us a finance report.
So I'm going to start with the water department. Looks like our bank balances have increased by $52,000 this year. Our water loss did go below 30 this month.
Yeah.
So it's at 27%. I know Isaac's still working on that a lot. I think the SCADA will help that because the tanks are not overflowing as much. So hopefully that will continue to stay a little bit lower. If you'll notice, our sewer expense is still more than the sewer income by 11,000 this month. I expect the numbers next month to even be a little bit worse than that, just because we've had some pretty heavy rains this month. But that's on track of where we were last year with it also. For the city, it looks like our overall bank balances have reduced by $9,000. The budgets look really good. The courts and police are the only ones that are showing over budget at this point. I think both of those are just because of payments that we have to pay early in the year, so I think those will offset themselves before long. The sales tax for the city is up 15% from where it was this time last year, and county's up 10% from where it was last year. We did have spring cleanup this last weekend. They did 108 loads for the entire weekend, which is sounds like a lot, but it's really not. We used to have at least that many per day, so that has gone down considerably since COVID. So I don't know if that will spring back eventually or not, but still 108 people that were able to get rid of their stuff. With the last payment to ANRC that Nick was talking about, the city's going to end up having about $7,000 that we are going to have to pay out of city funds to finish off that contract. We do already have approval from ANRC to use money that's in the depreciation fund for that. So once that's taken care of, at the end of the month, we should be able to start looking at the $200,000 worth of ARPA that we have sitting in the bank already, and start allocating some of that. So hopefully for the May agenda, we might have some of that ready for the department heads. And then the only other thing that I think I have is our annual reports that are due for ARPA. We did get that completed this week, so we are good to go for another year on those. Those are always fun, but they're done. So, any questions?
The word on audits.
I have not heard from the new auditor yet. I actually meant to contact him this week, and I forgot to do that. So I have not gotten an update on those. We did get a refund for the 2018 audit from Jim, and gotten all of our information from him and passed that on to the new auditor. So my assumption is that we'll be hearing something soon from them, but I'll get a hold of them also.
Any other questions for Christie?
One small one. Did we have anybody show up that was outside the city limits or without a water bill?
I did not do any of the checking in this time, so I don't know the answer to that.
Well, I was wondering.
So, I mean, a lot of people show up without water bills.
Right.
And that's okay, as long as they
Right.
have their address and an ID that has an address on it. We don't allow people that are outside the city limits to dump,
Right.
because it is just for the residents.
So I was
But
wondering.
just because they don't have a bill is not a reason why we would
Yeah.
turn them away.
I was wondering if, if someone was to show up, instead of them taking their trash back, could we charge them, say $20 a load or something? Is that?
No.
We're not interested in doing that.
We're not. First and foremost, we don't have the capabilities of we're talking about now we're setting up some sort of a payment plan. Are we gonna take checks? Are we gonna take credit cards? Well, I don't have that. Do you take cash? Well, what about change? There's just a lot to think about
Well, I was
going
just
into that.
thinking, if somebody.
Receiving that, and that's also part of our contract with Inland or
Okay.
LRS, whatever their name is now. That's for
This week.
city residents, and they offer that as
Right.
part of our contract and not as a fee to us. So I don't know that we would necessarily want to make a profit on that.
Well, I mean, I was just thinking, I'd hate for someone to show up and they're like,
Oh, I didn't realize it wasn't.
We don't, Amanda didn't say this time, that doesn't happen very often.
Most people realize they,
It's for residents.
Well, I
it's
know,
for
but I
residents, and
just-
if they have junk they wanna take, they can take it to Prairie Grove and pay to
Yeah.
dump it, just like, you know, anybody else in the county. And it's a heck of a lot more than $20.
Yeah. Usually it is.
So if we did something like that, we'd be losing money anyway.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Christie? Thanks, Christie. So I was pretty excited when I saw those sales tax numbers. Everybody catch that when Christie dropped it. 15.5% up, city sales tax. I don't really know what you attribute that to. Inflation could be part of it, but this is 15% up from where we were last year, so I don't know. Fantastic news, though. All right, so that's concludes our business reports, and we'll move into old business. The first item in old business is possible revisions to the sign ordinance. Any thoughts on the sign ordinance this month?
Still too long,
Still too long?
way too long.
Have you cut it down any?
I can throw half of it away. I can't even read through it.
Well, I mean,
Part of it is describing what the.
Definition.
there are
Yeah,
definitions, and then
So,
a lot
Okay,
of it,
you wanna put a sign in, go in there and find me what you can do
which
to
one?
put
Yeah.
your sign in.
Go ahead, Marty.
well, I was just gonna say, section 5 is, sign regulations by district, so it does have examples, but also, lists the districts out, so I feel like that part that's why it's so long. Is that section there, but it's understandable if we have all these, zoning districts. The chart has the breakdown, and I mean, I like it. I liked this. Sorry, I'm probably going like.
Sure,
I like the
sure.
zoning
So Tom is pointing out that these sign districts would change to follow the change in the zoning ordinance,
Right.
yes.
So it could be reduced. I mean, are we gonna
Potentially.
have
I doubt there'll be this
all of
many
those
districts.
districts?
Probably not this many districts.
all
in
those
the- yeah.
zones. But
Just a few fewer.
Yeah. I
Other
just don't
thoughts?
end up with something that's so complicated, nobody can comprehend it or wants to try.
I did like that we put the, under permit required item C, and we put the city council, if we decided to adopt a fee schedule in the future. And then he addressed in the section 2 prohibited signs about
Things are gonna change.
the signs, the commercial signs in residential zones, for home occupations. So that was what we asked at the last.
That was what we asked, yes.
That's what we asked at the last council meeting, so.
So, until we have the further information that's going to change all of the sign ordinance, is there a point to address the sign ordinance tonight? Is my question.
So the zones, the updated
The
zones, is that
zoning
what you're, okay. I mean, I think we've made tons of progress.
The only thing I just wanted to throw out there that I mentioned before the meeting was that on page 15, in section 5, where it talks about the sign regulations by district, that is really easy to read, so I did like that, is that monument signs are permitted in a residential area through a conditional use permit. So let me try to walk my thoughts out here. So what I was thinking is that conditional use permits can be rather fluid, like maybe you have some conditions to use some area in a residential zone for a purpose, but then that purpose may pass. And then, to me, putting a monument sign, which there's pictures here that look very substantial and permanent, to put a monument sign with a conditional use permit in a residential area doesn't necessarily seem appropriate. Like, I get that somebody might want to put a sign up, but maybe something a little less permanent, because the ones pictured here, I mean, if somebody decided they didn't want that business anymore, you could have this huge, well, a monument sitting there in a residential area. So that was my only thing, was that maybe that could be looked at as to what type of sign could be used. Thank you, there it is, yep. So,
Yeah.
anyway, that was just
I think
something
that's
I
a-
wanted to throw out
I
there.
think that's a fantastic point, Dina.
I was gonna say, I agree, it's exactly what you're looking for, is that kind of feedback for West Fork, you know, and, well, I've been thinking since we talked, I think those are meant for when you come into a neighborhood that's proud of itself and it has its,
Sure.
its name, you know, here's Valley View.
Right.
In the middle of the desert. But it doesn't say that. And the reason is we're so careful about talking about what the sign says. And so that's a very good point about, we can make that, you know, we can restrict that, just take it out altogether. And that way you won't run into that, where someone decides they want to put a monument, you know, for some other reason. So, because you're right, those are very prominent signs. And so I'll make that change.
Yeah,
if that's
and we
all right.
do have it down there for subdivisions, it is accepted or allowed, so,
Right.
so I think that is appropriate, right?
Well, I will make that change, so as we bring this up again, for other people's ideas, it'll be in there.
So I think, my feeling on this is we have some council members who feel like we've made vast improvements, and we have some council members who think we still have a ways to go. And it's been brought up that, do we want to pass this prior to getting our new zoning ordinance, when we know that there's gonna be some changes to it? So, I do think that if we're still not, if we're still not completely happy, we continue to work on it. If, obviously, we've got some changes that, city attorney's gonna make, but, Jeff's got some things he's wanting to chop out, it sounds like.
It's just too much.
So let's, my suggestion would be we continue to work on it. I'm encouraged by some of the discussion tonight. Some of that's been fairly in-depth, some deep things. So, is that all right with the council that we continue to work on it between now and the next meeting? I think Jimmy made the point that we're not really in a hurry. We do have some time because we have that zoning ordinance that's going to change some of this. And that's not to say that we can't put this into effect and then have it changed to mimic those zones once that new ordinance gets implemented. So we could implement it earlier to match our current zones and then just make that simple change at that time, depending upon how long it's going to take Walter to get that zoning ordinance.
Catch up to you.
Yeah. So, what's the council's thoughts on that?
I'll make a motion to table.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to table this. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Item 2, discuss possible revisions to the maintenance of real property ordinance. So if you guys will remember back about 6 months, we had some discussion. We had a local citizen who had been cited by our code enforcement, thank you. A code enforcement officer had cited a resident who came in to talk to the council and address the council about that citation. At that time, some of the council members suggested that possibly we need to revisit our maintenance of real property ordinance. And so we started talking about that some. We threw some things out there. That kind of got some members of the community excited. we had Miss Bonnie Stent reached out to me and said, hey, would you mind if I form a committee and put some more thought into this? And so we've went that route. Bonnie and her committee have they've put a lot of time and a lot of effort into this. I met with them, what's it been, 2 weeks ago, Bonnie? And they walked me through what they have put together for changes with the maintenance of real property ordinance. So I'm going to let Bonnie come up, tell us a little bit about what they've done, and then we can. We're basically introducing those changes tonight, and if we don't see any changes that need to be made with the council, then we would have Attorney Kicklack put us an ordinance together for that for the May meeting. All right, Bonnie, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm Bonnie Stitt, and I'd like to start by thanking you all for giving me the opportunity to put together a committee to make revisions. One correction to what Mayor Cottle said is that I didn't actually say, may I put together a committee? I said, can I give you a list of names of local gardeners? And he said, would you mind just going on and doing it? So, but anyway, it's been a great experience. I've really enjoyed it, and I've learned a lot. And I'd like to introduce the committee real quickly in alphabetical order by last name. First, we have Jane Bryant, who you stand when I say your name, who is a master gardener. And Jane also lives in my neighborhood, and I've watched her 16 years ago transform an old home with a neglected yard into a house and yard that could easily be featured in Better Homes and Gardens, in my opinion. So I think Jane has a real eye for beauty and curb appeal. And then we have Liz Hale, who is a master gardener here in Westport, but who also is the vice president of the Washington County Master Gardeners, and also holds an office at the Arkansas State level of the Master Gardeners Organization. We have Peggy Merringer, who is a trained master gardener and the owner of the Shire Post Mint. And Peggy's an avid gardener who has recently moved to Westport and is looking forward to growing a large vegetable garden here. And we have Stephanie Reynolds, who works for H2 Ozarks, and she has advised and informed our committee about issues related to the White River watershed. We have Jane Steinkraus, a longtime gardener and beekeeper, who's very knowledgeable about native plants and pollinators. And we have Emily Walker, who is a hardworking gardener and the leader of the Westport Good Earth Garden Club. So together we have studied regional and national landscaping legislation, environmental issues, and nationwide gardening and landscaping trends. And in creating the document we're presenting to you tonight, our goals have been to protect Westport residents' freedoms to garden and landscape in a variety of ways, while also emphasizing the importance of landscaping that's maintained and intentional, and to provide clear guidelines for code enforcement of neglected properties. So as I mentioned in my letter to you, we've simply added some wording to the current Westport ordinance, and it's highlighted in yellow. And the words that are crossed out are the words of the current ordinance that we'd like to see omitted. And we've only suggested changes to the ordinance that we thought might be related or somehow impact gardening or landscaping issues. And we've left the rest of the ordinance in its original form. And most of the language and wording that we've added is pulled from the model ordinances in the National Wildlife Federation documents that you all received at the October meeting when the young men came and introduced that. We studied those model ordinances and pulled language in that we could use. And then before bringing the proposal to you tonight, our committee met with both of the Westport Garden Clubs, the Master Gardeners and the Good Earth Garden Club, for their feedback and input. And we also met with Mayor Cottle, because we wanted to make sure that we were bringing a document that everyone would feel good about, or at least everyone could live with. And so far, the responses that we've received have been enthusiastic. So we hope you'll feel good about what we've come up with, and that this will be an ordinance that will reduce conflict and help things run more smoothly in Westport. So please feel free to ask me or the committee any questions you have. We're here and we're at your disposal. So.
Thank you, Bonnie. So I told this group to be aware, to wear their thick skin tonight, that this council was gonna tear this thing apart.
Go, Misty.
I loved it. I loved it.
So I think, I'll tell you guys what I told them. I sat through the presentation, read through this. They gave a great presentation of what they've done. And to be honest, most importantly in my mind, they got rid of the word vermin out of this ordinance. But I was very happy with it. I think they've done a great job of addressing some needs, but continuing to keep teeth in the ordinance, if you will, so that we can try to keep maintained yards within the city limits. Like I told them, I was very happy with it. Obviously, I'd want the city attorney to look over it, but if you guys have looked through it and if you have any questions or concerns about it, I'd be happy to hear those. Or we're not going to address it tonight. Tonight's an introductory period for it. We'll be taking it up officially at our next meeting in May, so that should give plenty of time to read over it more thoroughly if you need that.
I just had one question, and it may be because I just need clarification and I'm confused. But in section 3, I believe, so it's 5.12.04, where it's talking about notice required. And it talked about that they have 21 days to attend to whatever matter was brought to the attention, which I think, is a good length, that's a fair length of time for anybody to do. But then it said that if they're unable to complete those duties, they have to give a written plan for how they're wanting to address what was brought to them. So then, let's say they bring that plan in, and it's like day 20. Is there then another 21 days after that, or is there a time length where they have to address it if they weren't able to attend to it in the first 21 days? Am I communicating that well enough?
I think that my understanding of it is that if they have a plan that is acceptable to the city for the way what they're actually doing with it, like say they were growing something and the code enforcement officer wasn't sure whether it fit in a maintained natural landscape or whether it was just an overgrown weed patch or whatever. If they were clear and they presented something that made sense, that no, this is actually an intentional, this is a particular type of native grass or whatever that I'm doing on purpose, then that would be like, okay. But if it's like not, then it's like, well, then you need to mow it or we're gonna come in and mow it and deal with it in the way that it has been in the past.
So Dina, would you think if we, maybe just a little bit of changing of words there, that the plan detailed a timeline as well?
I think that would be good, yeah. And maybe, do we need to have a minimum or a maximum amount of time that plan has to take place in? I'm just wondering, I'm just throwing questions out there, so I'm not an expert.
I think that's fair enough, yeah. Yeah, there's certainly nothing wrong with, a lot of people would probably say that a plan would have a timeline in it, right?
But I think it needs to be explicit.
I would agree with you, yeah.
Anyway, that's that was all.
I think any changes that you all want to make it make sense is fine with us, or we can take it back and work on it some more, whatever works best.
Any other thoughts?
I think they've done a great job. You can tell there's a lot of work went into it, and we really appreciate what y'all have done.
Thank you.
All of you.
My other concern, and I'm not a gardener, okay, things need to thrive on their own or they're out of luck at my house. So, so what I was wondering though is, I couldn't look at all of the ornamental grass and weeds or flowers and always tell a difference. My husband doesn't like the yellow flowers that grow in the cow field, and I think they're super pretty, so I don't know the difference. But what I'm wondering is, could people just arbitrarily say, oh no, that's there for a purpose, when it's really just a weed? And what type of accountability is there for that? That was one of my questions.
So-
I couldn't tell the difference.
So I kind of felt like they had addressed that with, they had listed some vegetation that was just outright not allowed. But then they, and I haven't found it yet, Dina, but I do know that in here, oh, right here it is. So page 52.1 is what it's
Oh,
listed in
okay.
my. So they put quite a bit of effort into managed natural landscapes,
Yes.
managed natural, land, managed. So
Right.
I think they have hit on some of that so that, you know, that was part of the issue when this first,
Right.
you know, arose was we had someone who had just, they'd planted and just let it go. And, you know, some people saw that as just an attempt not to mow, right? And so I think with the terminology of managed, I felt like they had addressed some of that.
Okay.
But
But thank you. I mean,
But
I
we-
just concur with them too, is that y'all did a great job and I appreciate your time and effort and I think we all want our city to look pretty and also be kind to the environment and the bees and all things. So, thank you
We
for.
really tried to get a good balance of the both.
Mhm.
Because it can be beautiful
Mhm.
and also be environmental.
Yes.
good.
So
Yeah.
is there somebody on the committee that will answer questions, a lot of questions, when that code enforcement officer says, I'm concerned this is a messy yard because they've just not mowed it and I don't see a plan. They've not provided a plan. I can't see that there's order in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Is there somebody that is willing to be the point person for all the questions that code enforcement person may have? Because like my colleague here stated, I am not of the green thumb. I am not a gardener. I can plant a tomato plant and usually it grows. But when we get into, you know, the gentleman that were here in October talked about milkweed. I don't know what a milkweed looks like. I think it grows taller than 8 inches. If I'm remembering from my childhood, when my parents had it, it gets really tall, some of them. And so I don't know how to
Yes.
define that. And that's my question.
Yeah, let me say a couple of things to that point, and if other people have, other committee members want to respond too, I don't want to be the only one, but we did present that issue when we met with the master gardener and also the garden club, and we said, and also our committee, are we willing and are you all willing to help if the city runs into a problem? You know, and everyone's like, yes, definitely. So I think there are lots of gardeners that if y'all pass this, will say, yes, we'll help if a situation comes up where the code enforcement officer or whoever needs help. And also, there are these amazing little apps nowadays that even I can go out and snap a quick picture of a flower and immediately, or a weed or anything, and boom, it will tell you what it is and whether it's native, whether it's invasive, whatever. So if the code enforcement officer had that little app, you know, that would also help. But like I said, there are a lot of gardeners in the community that really like this and that are like behind it and willing to help. So I don't think there's any shortage of people that would, and you know, there could be a designated point person, or it could, you know, be a rotating position. Or
Well, to that point, there's an appeals process, so the code enforcement officer goes out, cites somebody, say, hey, I think you're in violation. The Board of Zoning Adjustment, which is what the Planning Commission is concurrently as, they are the board you would go to appeal that and say, hey, I think the code enforcement got this wrong. And then it's on us to say, you know, we can, at that point, you know, and we have 2 master gardeners on there anyways.
Okay.
So.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, hopefully 2 master.
Well,
Currently 1, but hopefully 2.
That's right.
But yeah, so that there's that as well.
Okay, perfect.
did somebody over here have a question?
You don't?
I like it. The question was, do we have to, if you look at, where it talks about we have to go and take care of it, if the city has to take care of it, do we have to have a court order in order to charge them for it? Or can we just say, you know, this is in the ordinance and this is what we're doing? Does it have to come from the court?
I'll let you.
It does not.
Okay.
It's a complex process. It requires notice.
Okay,
Several notices, actually,
okay,
before we can lien the property or try to collect that back.
okay,
And when we do the final run-through, I'll make sure all that's in there,
okay.
the process we can use.
And again, that's certainly not the direction that we want this to go. The idea is that we have something in place to help somebody work through it. Oh, yeah, there's always someone that you can't help, but, no, it's a good question, though, Jan. Anything else?
So I might ask Bonnie to maybe correspond directly with me.
Sure.
Per card.
Sure.
So you could maybe email it to me in the
Yes.
format that you guys do.
Absolutely, yes.
And I might ask you guys to talk to me a little bit more about an intentionally managed wildlife refuge or compost pile.
Okay.
I can see a cynical person hiding behind that, right? And so we might expand a definition or a description of that a little
Have a definition.
bit. Have some parameters.
I see, yeah. that's good.
And let's work directly together if that's okay.
Okay, yes, that would be great. We'd be happy to do
I'll
that.
give you a card.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that? Can we move forward with it? Okay. Somebody make a motion to table that until the next meeting?
I make a motion that we table it till the next meeting and come back prepared to hopefully do something.
Okay. Was that a second, Dina? We have a motion second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes. Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. So I wonder, was that why everybody is here tonight? For that, or was it for this piece? Notify the public of the adoption of the Arkansas Fire Code 2021 edition by reference, ordinance number 514.
Why was it?
No. That wasn't what brought them out.
They are notified.
All right, so that is referenced in ordinance 514 that we are adopting the Fire Code 2021 edition. Okay. Item 2, approve a new contract with the Washington County.
I'm sorry, back on that ordinance. under
Notification.
Yes, under that notification, section 2.
Oh, sorry.
says City of Lowell, and I think we need to change it to say Westport.
I had that.
I was like, whoa, whoa,
I think
whoa.
that's already been changed.
It's already been changed, just not on our copy? Okay.
At least on my drawing.
Perfect.
Cut and paste there.
Perfect, yeah.
You know,
Sorry, I tried to move right past it.
we
No.
notify.
So Heath, can I clarify on that? That will actually be an ordinance in May, so we'll obviously go back and read that and make sure that we get Lowell taken out of there. But, by law, we had to notify the public that it will be something that will be on the May agenda to adopt. So we currently are following, what version?
2012.
The 2012 version, so we just have to update
Well,
the
we can-
ordinance so that we can.
Have things changed?
It's how far, it's 2023 and they're just now adopting 2021 code.
It changed a lot. It changed a lot. But this way, we don't have to post the entire code in our posting places nor publish it. If we adopt it by reference, we have to keep 3 copies at City Hall. And so this is the process to adopt something by reference. We do that with our big codes, our larger codes.
Yeah, I'm looking at mine. Mine's already been fixed too, Marty.
Good, okay.
I kind of felt bad for missing that. I guess give me compliments.
Sorry.
All right. So are we still good? Motion second to accept that notification? Move
I
forward?
motion we accept that notification.
A second.
All right, we got a second motion and second to move forward with that notification. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Now we've officially voted on a notification. Item 2, approve the new contract with Washington County Animal Shelter.
question I had on that was, what does it currently take to get, I mean, what is the process now? Because we don't just take everything that's stray and,
No, we do not.
okay. Mostly, I think, and I don't speak for our neighborhood, if, you know, the animal is tagged, you know, most people are good and try to find the owner and call the owner. But what is the process now for maybe those that aren't tagged or?
Are out all the time?
Yeah.
So, and we've discussed this, if I'm not mistaken, Mayor Baker, I think you had discussions on this. But we've had discussions on how far do we take this. Do we put on a full-time animal control personnel? If we do, we did some looking into that. Isaac got some quotes, what it costs to outfit a vehicle and a person. And I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not trying to talk bad about anybody, but there have been rules put into place that say you can't transport a dog from West Fork to Fayetteville without putting it in a climate-controlled environment, right? So that means if we're going to put on an animal enforcement officer, we have to buy a pickup with a climate-controlled camper. You know what I'm saying? So the point being, in order to do animal enforcement and do it properly, you're talking a lot of money for animal control. I think the equipment in the vehicle was like $75,000, and at that time Chief Nelson had looked, you can't just grab Brandon and say, hey, go get this dog. Brandon gets bit, and the city hasn't given him proper training. Now we've got other issues coming before the city council, right? So there's a lot of things that go into this that, you know, a lot of times you look out the house and, you know, I've got this issue at my house. The neighbor's cats use my wife's flower bed, and, you know, and then my wife uses me as a sounding board to tell me, you know, something needs to be done about those cats. And I agree it does, but to what degree does a small town, and I think Attorney Kicklack will tell you that every small town struggles with this, struggles doing it well, and that's not an excuse. We can't use that as an excuse, but there are some handicaps in handling.
But it is a little ridiculous to always see on Facebook, this dog's out, I know whose it is, and it's always the same people, always.
I agree, and you know, I chuckle at Facebook. You guys know what I think of
Yeah,
it. There's,
I agree, but
just this past week there was lots of entertainment about, you know, this dictatorship that the mayor's running and whatnot. We've got some great people commenting on Facebook, but it typically is a cycle, right? Every 6 months, dogs
dog
comes back
complaints
up.
are-
Yes, no, I totally agree.
legitimate. I mean, it's crazy.
Mhm. But I think, from my opinion, the cats are worse. That's what gets me in trouble, is the cats.
We had a couple wild dogs loose there on McKnight for a while.
Yeah. So how do we address that?
Need to start holding some animal owners accountable.
And I
My
think
thought,
I think you're right to some degree, but to some degree,
be it warnings or eventually a ticket and come stand in front of the judge.
but I think with a lot of these, some of them we don't even know who owns them.
Yeah, but the ones I'm seeing, everybody knows who owns
Oh,
them.
okay.
They tell you what house they're from, and the guy ain't very nice, or this, that, and the other, and they don't wanna do anything to keep their animals up.
Well, and another thing I would like to see is at the parks, there's always
Keep
dogs
citing.
running loose. I mean, why aren't we ticketing those people?
Yeah.
Because they're not on a leash. People
Okay.
are just throwing frisbees, maybe their dogs are chasing them, they're walking them, they let them off the leash to go to the bathroom,
So,
you know.
so real quick, Interim Chief Goggins, you gave a report a while ago.
Yes.
Did you get questioned on any of this? So some of these things are what we need to be talking to our officers about, making sure they're aware of it, making sure that they're aware of the council's position on, hey, if we're at the parks, we want to see leashes in effect, right? I mean, that's
Correct.
because our officers, I think it was Brandon pointed out, give blood and don't get a ticket, right? I mean, most people that deal with the police officers don't like them because they've done something right, but So our police officers aren't out trying to make the residents mad, but if the council has a position on something, we need to use this time to let the police department know where we stand on it. Absolutely.
Bad guy. And just to address that, we had, like I said, our statistics on that, I guess this might be, it was last month, we had 7 animal calls, and I believe we issued 3 citations. The one, if it's the one I think he's talking about, I think that person's been cited maybe at least 3 times. And, you know, I mean, it's, we catch them out, we document and cite them, we try to start with a warning, and then escalate from there. But
So
if they don't care or we don't know where the dog belongs.
Well, I get that, but, you know, there's a lot of them that somebody knows where they belong. And it's the same offenders over and over and over.
And we've had one person that was cited almost a dozen times. And
Do they pay the fines?
I don't know.
So that's a whole nother issue, and we're getting into a big bag of worms there, but there is a judicial issue, and I'm not picking on judges, I'm just saying that there's a process there that has some holes in it right now, right? And so if you look at the bigger county picture, there's, we could get a whole hornet's nest stirred up in here, I'm sure, over policing and jailing and those needs, but we are running into an issue, and I've brought this up with the county judge on a couple of occasions, that we do not want to get ourselves in a position where our officers are ignoring things because they know that there's a judicial system that can't prosecute it, right? And that's a very real issue right now. As Officer Goggins says, if you write somebody 12 times, and there was a need to write that 12th one.
They may pay one time.
Right, so we have to keep, there's a lot of this that goes into play. This isn't easy, that's why I started this out by saying that it's difficult, it's especially difficult in small towns. But,
So Mayor, if I may,
yes.
I was really
You started
just
this,
trying
Marty.
to get at, do we transport the animals to the shelter? Does the county come and pick up the animals from here? Like, it does say in this contract, which is just the contract, it's not like a pet ordinance or anything. It's just, I just wanted to know, like, does Isaac's crew transport the animals, or do the policemen transport the animals? Or, and who makes the decision that the animal is transported?
Come on up, Christie.
So, Marty, you're correct. This is just the contract.
Just a
with
contract,
Washington
yeah.
County Animal Shelter.
Right.
Nothing, this is the same contract we've had with them since they opened the new
Years.
shelter.
Mhm.
The only thing that's changing in this contract is actually the fee that they charge, and it's going down by $30. So currently, it's $180, it's going to $150. I honestly think that was an oversight on their part, but we'll take it. We're not gonna argue with it.
I did underline that.
So, but our process right now is if a resident of West Fork has an animal that they want to surrender willingly, they come to the city, they pay us that fee, we give them a receipt and a letter saying that they paid it and that we are fine with them surrendering that animal. They then make an appointment at the animal shelter to take it and leave it. The animal shelter bills us, so the payment has offset that invoice already. Currently, we do not have an active animal control. Our employees don't pick up a stray and just take it up there. If there is an animal bite or something that involves the police, our police officers and or the Isaac's guys are allowed to take an animal up there, and then we would be billed that fee, whatever that is. But it's not something that we're just actively out picking up.
Okay, I just
an
like
animal and taking.
$150, even though that has gone down. I could see where this could turn into a significant
And
cost.
Did you see our budgeted, our line item budget for it? It's our first expense line item on the general budget is AC pound fees, $500.
Yeah, so
Typically, they offset it. We rarely ever have one that is not offset because we don't allow, there are some cities that just allow people to take them up there and it's open billing. We do not do that just so that we can control the budget.
Right.
We had a gentleman, I think it was last month, month before that paid for 12 animals.
Okay.
We've never had that ever in the past. Usually people have a heart attack when they find out they have to pay for one. But
Right.
we do provide them a copy of the ordinance, show them that it's just a fee that we're passing along, that the county charges us.
We're retaining it, it's offsetting, okay, perfect.
So then this isn't like a contract where we're gonna be having somebody picking up these dogs that we get phone calls about, loading them up and taking them
No.
somewhere. Okay, just to clarify that.
This is
for
not gonna
everybody.
change
Okay.
the process that we currently
Okay.
have at all, or our
Okay.
animal control ordinance in any way. This is just the contract so that we can
Surrender.
utilize
Okay.
the county shelter.
Okay.
Any other questions? It's good discussion tonight.
Make a motion that we approve this contract
I second.
between Washington County and the City of West Fork.
We have a motion and a second to approve the contract. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries. Item 3. We have a recommendation, Walter.
Yes. Our last meeting, or 2 meetings ago, Jennifer Sims stepped down from Planning Commission, and so we're empty a seat, and Mr. Bonnie Stitt is stepping up to fill that seat. So we recommended her do so.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Bonnie Stitt to the Planning Commission, and Elizabeth will document what position that is. Okay. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. Welcome aboard, Bonnie. And thank you. Item 4 is our change order that we discussed, that we amended the agenda for. Everyone had a copy of that emailed to them as soon as we got it. A change order is for $7,692.59. It is for materials that we took ownership of that were left over from the sewer project. Do we have any discussion concerning that?
And this is what this, dollar amount, Christie, this is what you were talking about, that, or that Nick was talking about, that the ANRC, somebody said has approved using depreciation funds for this? Is that right?
No, there's a separate,
Okay,
a pay app, a separate pay app coming for
Okay.
that.
okay. So we'll have another.
Yeah, that's correct. All I was gonna say is what this is just a change in the overall contract.
Okay.
It's the final numbers on the contract amount.
Make a motion, we accept it,
I second.
approve it.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That passes. Item D, other business. Do we have other business, council?
Well, I'm sorry, but you mentioned the Facebook post
Yes.
about the shooting range, if all of that was tied in together.
Glad you brought that up,
So
Dina.
could you give some clarification?
Absolutely. So, months ago, there was talk about Arkansas Game and Fish putting in a shooting range, a major facility in northwest Arkansas. It was going to be trap shooting and different things. Game and Fish asked for people to reach out to them. They put a whole website up and said, "Hey, reach out to us. We'd like to look at these different locations." We were aware, West Fork was aware that the quarry was one of those sites, and we were aware that Game and Fish looked at the quarry. And that's where it stopped at. I want to say that happened in November, December, sometime in that time frame. I'm not sure where this sudden topic has came from. It came up last Thursday in the Planning Commission meeting. Someone was asking questions about it. And then was shown that it hit Facebook. A reporter from Democratic Gazette called me yesterday evening. We talked again today. He had reached out to Game and Fish. I told him I'd heard no new news on this. Didn't know where it was, the popularity was coming from all of a sudden. He reached out to Game and Fish, and Game and Fish assured him that they were a long ways away from choosing a site, that yes, they had looked at West Fork site, but they'd looked at several other sites. I know that there was one in Winslow that was looked at as well. So again, you know, I'm not sure where that came from, but yes, they have looked at it as a potential site. We have no indication whether that has any fruit or not. And as I mentioned at the Planning Commission meeting Thursday night, that's currently outside of West Fork city limits. If the owners of that property and Arkansas Game and Fish come together on an agreement, there's nothing the city of West Fork can say or do about it at this point. Again, it's outside the city limits. We don't really have a say in that. Now, would Washington County defer to us on some of it? We certainly hope so, but they don't have to. So that's kind of where we're at on it, Dina. We don't know anything, unfortunately, and I don't really have a. It surprised me how it suddenly popped up and got so popular so quickly. But
So then to clarify,
Yes.
the mayor is not making unilateral decisions about the city of West Fork by himself and about the direction that things will go.
you know what? Something that's really surprised me, Dina, in this position is I've learned that if somebody disagrees with you, a lot of people are willing to tell a lie about you just to throw some dirt on you.
Well, thank you for the
Mayor-
clarification.
Mayor Baker, did you ever have to deal with that?
Never.
Never? just my poor luck. All right.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm trying to find the Washington County Quorum Court agenda,
Uh-huh.
and I can't find it on the website. Do you know how we could be better informed if it should come up as an agenda item so we could?
That's a great question. So I'll be honest with you, Elizabeth, I haven't looked for their agenda in a while. The last time I looked for their agenda was when they were considering the distillery that was being looked at in that same area. But at that time, I had no trouble finding it on their website and on their calendar. So I don't have any, I found it right away there, is what I'm
Why
saying.
couldn't they have a meeting April 20th?
But there's,
They don't have an agenda posted, they have past agendas. And you can YouTube their meeting.
yes.
Live, but of course, I doubt you have much input if you do it that way.
Yeah.
It may be too early for their agenda.
It could
For the
be,
what?
Probably a
The
little
quorum court?
yeah.
Yeah, it comes out the Friday before.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And if you go to government on their website, it's on the, go to government meetings, go to the calendar, their agenda is on the calendar.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other business? That's what this is for.
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead, Miss.
Okay, have we ever thought about like an exit interview sheet? Something like for, people who are getting off of committees, council, employees, and like what role did they play? What were their goals? You know, things that worked, didn't work, suggestions, improvements. But, you know, all, like library committee, parks, planning, water, sewer, you know, council, employees, just an exit interview sheet of some sort, and it could have, you know, other things, I mean.
That's a
whoever thought-
fantastic idea.
So when people get off, you know, and I'm not saying, like, say tomorrow, we have 5 people get off of a committee, or, well, you know, kind of why did they,
Sure, sure.
you know?
So would you volunteer to put together an exit interview
No,
sheet for us?
I probably not. I think that's about as far as I went. I don't know.
What questions would you ask?
I don't know. That's kind of what I was throwing out there is, you know.
Do you really want to know the answers?
Okay.
So I do think it's a great idea, Miss Dina, and I would like for you to
Okay.
to bring us
Present something next
Yeah.
month. Okay.
Yeah, or not necessarily next month, but this
Okay.
summer.
Okay.
Yeah, put some thought into it.
Okay.
Any other business? So I've got something if you guys don't.
Go ahead, Mayor.
All right. So you guys have all been given the draft West Fork Vision Plan with the Master Street Plan and future land use plan in it. This has been put together from the Planning Commission. Planning Commission worked on this for
2 years? Year and a half on this one.
well, they worked on it about a year, and then we brought in some outside counsel to help. And so we've been working with them for another year and a half. So it's been a process. It's been a tough process. I have a feeling that we have a couple folks in the audience tonight they're anxious to hear what the council's thoughts are on this. I don't know that for a fact, but I will say that we've had some contention on the master street plan in particular. The future land use proposal has had, there's been some debate on it, honestly, and part of that reason is that the future land use that's designed in this does reach outside of city limits. So the future land use map for West Fork goes to our planning boundaries, which the planning boundaries are at a maximum of 1 mile outside of the city limits. So when we start looking at future land uses, Jeff, I can't help but pick on you. You're here tonight, and I'm so glad to have you, but I served on the planning commission. Mayor Baker was chairman of the planning commission at that time, and we went through a lot of this at that time. That was one of the most recent updates to the planning commission's documents was when ex-Mayor Baker was the chairman of that committee.
That's the version we're still working with.
It is, but he didn't go far enough, I would say. He stopped short of getting the whole rewrite. But yes, that was, I don't remember what year that was, but it was way back there. Early 2000s anyway. But we run into a lot of the same challenges. When we start looking at making changes to these types of things, now people's, we're talking about people's property. We're talking about, hey, in the future, if there's development in an area, the city may need to have plans for a road to come through with that development. Not that the city's planning to build roads, but the city is planning that development has to build roads if it happens in an area. But that's understandably that's scary, right? You don't want the city drawing lines on a map through your property. So I say that to say that they've been dealing with this for a couple of years. When we first put this plan out, we had a meeting at the fire department. I think all the council was there for that night, and we had a large crowd. Over 100 people showed up that night. Since then, the crowds they've become smaller and smaller. We've addressed a lot of issues in that time, but I say all that to say you guys have been aware that this is going on. We do finally have a draft. This isn't zoning. This is master street plan and future land use. Okay, and future land use is not zoning. It is saying, hey, in this area, due to topography, due to infrastructure, we could see higher density development, or it could be that in this area, due to topography and the lack of infrastructure, we never see, or it's outside of our 20 to 30 year purview that we would see any kind of density development. So that's kind of what they're dealing with here is where would you want a business, where would you want higher density housing, that type of thing. It's land use, it's not individual zoning. Okay, so that's what they're kind of looking at. They are looking at a 20 to 30 year time frame, trying to move it out that far. Same thing with the master street plan. And the master street plan, there's a 1/4 mile stretch of West Fork that has been intensely debated. But I want to keep it on everyone's mind that the state of Arkansas is required to have a master street plan. The city of West Fork is required to have a master street plan. If you look at the state of Arkansas's master street plan, you're going to see roads going through subdivisions all over the state because they've got lines drawn out there where they suppose that they may need a road at some point, and maybe when the development happened, they didn't require the road, or maybe things happened before they were paying attention to. Anyway, the point is that there are projected possible roads all over this state. What West Fork is doing here is not, it's not out of character. It's not something that is, well, West Fork's trying to build roads. That's not the case. It is a requirement. The city of West Fork is, I think, being more proactive and more aggressive at looking at potential areas for growth, looking at potential bottlenecks in the city. We have been a city designed around a 4-way stop for a long time. We have a school designed around that. We've talked about that in these meetings on several times about different ways to formulate traffic through the city to alleviate some of those problems. What if we grow, 50 homes is a lot of times equal to 100 cars, maybe 125 cars. How many cars are at the average home now? So we start thinking about those things, and it brings up some real issues that we need to deal with, we need to start looking at. This is our current, what we're bringing to you guys, asking for your thoughts and for your approval on it at the next city council meeting. Are there any questions concerning that?
I just want to thank you because I know this represents countless volunteer hours that you all invested in this. And even Mayor, as they're working off the document that you helped create. So I just want to thank everyone that worked on this because it's a lot. So it's appreciated.
So, with that audience, if anyone is interested in this plan, that will be taken up at the next council meeting. Tonight is an introduction for the council to get their hands on this draft, to start looking it over. They're not familiar with it. They're not going to debate the concept with you tonight, but at the next meeting, they will be taking this under advisement for a vote. And if you have concerns that you've addressed it at planning or that you don't feel have been addressed at planning, you're more than welcome to come, and the council will debate those ideas and hear you out at the May meeting.
But also our planning commission meeting, we won't be changing anything because we've already approved the recommendation, but if you got questions, come in and we can tell you what our thought process was for sure.
Yeah.
And that's on the 20th.
Okay. All right. Any other business? So mayor's comments. We have a lot of good things happening right now. A lot of good projects that are moving forward. Super excited when I drove by the other night and saw some gravel down there at Riverside Park, Chad. We've been talking about that for a long time. I think Mayor Baker tried to get bathrooms down there. So this has been something West Fork's been working on a long time. Budgeted for it. I remember in those votes, I think it was part of that. Anyway, it's exciting to see that some of that stuff happening. I did, while I was talking to the reporter on the happenings of the Arkansas Game and Fish shooting range, we did get into a discussion on the fact that West Fork has put in for a new bridge over the river and the fact that that's been awarded. We are going to sit down and do an interview sometime in the near future, in the next week or so probably, on that process, what it means to West Fork, some of that. So anyway, excited about that. Another good project for us. And then it's April 11th, so I thank all of the department heads for the extra work you've done over the past couple months to help me out a little bit. And with that, John, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Those opposed, no. That motion carries.